Your eyes do not deceive you. I am here in the flesh with the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Phenom. How you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Glad to be here in person. A lot of big stuff to talk about this week. So
Absolutely, man. It was good to have you here. Good to see you. And let's share the screen here and just dive right in after a really exciting first week of the playoffs. And just let's just go from there. But
a lot of doubters out there, and we're proving them wrong. I'm sure this will really advocate them too, being I didn't show up to the in-person draft, but here I am in the flesh.
Absolutely, man. Hey, here we go. Here's the bracket right now. Here's what's going on. Obviously, we see who won. We know who won. We're just go through the matchups and break them down real quick. And just looking at the first matchup here between George and Wazinski, nothing really shocking here. Down week for Connor, but decent week for Wuhan, but pretty down efforts from Pacheco and Foster Monroe's been pretty rough, and just not a ton of production. And Connor Among Thieves gets it done with what he's got, but a couple guys in that lineup that I think he might make some adjustments on. And everyone can see that I don't have McAfee on my phone, on my computer, so let's get rid of that. But yeah, no, that's a couple lineup changes, but all in all, still a pretty strong week.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I thought it would have been cool to see Wuhan, come in there and make it, but I think we all realized what was going to happen here. Tannehill just couldn't get it done, and Connor had another powerful week, and then even with the Jacobs not getting as much rushing as we thought he would, the team still pulled it off. So
yeah, it's funny to say 123 is a down week, but again, just kind of been the theme for this team in the last month or so. Looking at my matchup, it was a lot closer than I expected it to be. Monday Night Football was pretty exciting. Christian Watson had a couple opportunities to seal it for me, but he didn't do it. Obviously Pat Freiermuth getting a goose egg doesn't help anything. Guy's been a pretty consistent producer all year, but with the backup quarterback play, not getting the ball. Rashad White stepped back. So a huge week out of, nice week out of Fields and Stevenson, but everyone else kind of just not a lot of touchdowns scored, and that's going to be the difference. Milkman down week for how he's been the last, month and some change, but I don't really understand the Gallup play, but better options on the bench with AJ Dillon, whatnot, but didn't need it, didn't matter. Got the job done with his guys. Down week for Tyreek and Amon-Ra for what he's been producing. So, and for Herbert. So I expect this team to put up more points next week.
Yeah, same thing here. This was definitely a nail biter, especially between Watson and Cam Akers there at the end. I mean, down to I think at one point it was a 0.1 difference. So it was definitely a fun game to watch. But yeah, I was hoping you'd slide in there. Milkman's been a power team, so it would have been nice to see him get knocked out early. And I thought we had a shot with Justin Herbert not putting up as many points as he normally does. And then especially with AJ Dillon being benched. But, unfortunately, I think he's going to make those changes going into next week. And, it's just, I think he's going to be back into that, 120, 130 bracket again.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Yeah, it just stinks when you're handed an opportunity to be able to do something and just doesn't work out. But, moving on to probably what I think is the most questionable coaching decision that was made this past week was the Rock Boys benching Tua for Daniel Jones. And I don't think it was the ultimate deciding factor, but it's definitely 14 points he left on the bench. And that would have made the game a little bit tighter. With Fentanyl putting up 120, getting that big win. Did matter, but that's still just a very odd move in my opinion. But looking at Fentanyl, Brock Purdy, is a great start considering Tyler Huntley realized that he can't throw the football more than 3 yards down the field. Another down week for Andrews, and Zonovan Knight could have done better. But big week out of Devonta Smith. He looked like himself again. And Dalvin Cook really coming into form with that 30 piece. And yeah, this team has the potential to put up those crooked numbers. Just inconsistent, but yeah, Rock Boys. I had to apologize for my take on this team before, but that being said, this is kind of what I expected this team to be. It just kind of was overperforming there. But 1.4 out of Sanders and 14 out of Eckler, that's just that's really going to seal the deal. And the quarterback decision. But yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever understand the quarterback decision that went on here. The only thing I could think is maybe, he saw that Tua was up against that Buffalo defense and the snow and all that was going to happen, and decided to, like go for Daniel Jones, who has been like a, decent quarterback, nowhere near the numbers Tua's putting up, but usually seals the deal in the fourth quarter. But hey, that decision cost him this season, and definitely with Sanders just not performing. But yeah, Fentanyl, props for picking up Purdy. I was tempted to block that out and pick him up and just bench him, but I'm glad I didn't. It's interesting to see because he's definitely knocked out one of the power teams in the league. And then the way Minnesota's been playing, I think we can see more out of Dalvin Cook, and then also didn't mention it earlier with Justin Jefferson as well. So
yeah, man, it's definitely, just to talk about the quarterback decision again. Like, I get to your point about the weather. Yeah, I definitely get that. But at the same time, Daniel Jones going on the road to Washington against a good front four, pretty solid defense, and they played a 2020 game last time, so these teams are very familiar. Washington had a bye between the games, so you knew they were going to come out with a decent game plan to kind of put them in check. And 20 points if you only give up 20 points in an NFL game, you got a good chance to win a lot of games. So again, I kind of get where he was going as far as the concern, but you got to ride your guys that got you there, and he paid the price. And again, I don't know if it necessarily comes down to a decision based off the final output, but it definitely didn't help the situation in my mind. But I'll let you talk about your matchup, pulling off what I would consider a pretty big upset.
Yeah, this one honestly is probably the craziest upset of the whole season right here. Team Butcher, solid team. Geno Smith. These guys have been performing. Honestly, a couple of things I'll throw out there. Jonathan Taylor going down. Unfortunate, but that was huge for me to cash in on. And then just two freak things happened. You had that whole George Kittle with San Fran. Purdy just kept targeting him, so he had the biggest game probably his career. And then Kirk Cousins, like, I don't think. Going into the fourth quarter, I was a little depressed, thinking, this game's over for me. And then you go from having like 5 points to 40. It's just pretty wild. So I didn't see this one coming. I thought it would be tight and we'd both be around 100. But to see Team Butcher, this is probably one of his lower performances of the season, and then it's hands down my highest of the whole season. So didn't see this coming. But I'm going to have to capitalize on it and go forward. And then definitely, especially with my defense getting me negative points here, this is just totally out of the normal. But I will say I don't regret picking up Elijah Moore here and Chris Moore. Like, they weren't like power plays, but they definitely got me enough points to keep the.
They were solid enough to get the job done, because I don't think there's anything on your bench other than the almighty Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. Whoever dropped that guy's got to be really upset about that. That is just like a rookie move to let that guy go, and especially knowing there's the guy out here that picks up every defense, kicker, and tight end he gets a shot at. You knew that guy wasn't sticking around once you dropped him. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I just kind of look at this. You pretty much said it all, man. Jonathan Taylor going down was a huge letdown because, obviously, when their team puts up 36 points, you expect one of the best running backs in the league to be a big part of that. Oh, yeah. And just unfortunate that he was not on the field. Down week for Hockenson. All that comeback from the Vikings, and Hockenson couldn't find his way on the end of a touchdown. Just again, kind of like my team, just no real huge performance, lacking a lot of touchdowns. Like CeeDee Lamb and Deontay Johnson, pretty solid days, but for the most part, tough matchup for Geno and Kenneth Walker against San Fran. That kind of played out how I expected it to, and and Kansas City, I think you could have expected more points out of that defense. To talk about your favorite topic, fantasy football defenses, but playing against Houston, man, only 8 points. That was definitely more potential for that. And as far as your team goes, the 40 burger out of Cousins, that I don't know how often you can expect that, but that game was wild. I don't know if you watched it, but
insane comeback on
biggest one in NFL history. So I mean, you got to throw the ball a lot in that situation, and obviously it worked out. Barkley, really strong day. Good to see him back on track for you again, and Kittle, obviously, like you talked about. But everyone else, did their job for the most part, other than your defense. You got to talk to them about that. But Chubb down again, but he always plays the Ravens a little bit below. But yeah, man, I mean, your team does have, again, putting up 136. That's going to win you a lot of ball games. And
Folk coming out on top again, but both defenses
Yeah.
with subpar performance.
yeah, even your Jets stealing the bench, only 1 point against Detroit. So yeah, I do. I mean, your team has the potential to win. Your wide receiver room still scares me. I like the guys you can get by with, but you need those big weeks from a couple guys at least, like Barkley to put up a 30 or Kittle to keep the mojo going. With the backup with Purdy in there, backup quarterback throwing on the ball, I could see that. But no, good performance, man. It's nice to shake up the playoffs a little bit and just before we move on, honorable mention to Team Coleman. Didn't get in the playoffs, unfortunately due to a tiebreaker with Wuhan Weezer in a head-to-head matchup. That's going to be something that's voted on about, being points for as a tiebreaker instead of a head-to-head matchup, because I believe Team Coleman was third or fourth in the league in points for. Just kind of ran into some tough matchups here and there, but man, 177 points and doesn't have a chance to fight in the playoffs, man, because that would have beat anybody, obviously. And we'd be looking at a really different playoff landscape.
The one good thing for him is, even though Hurts put up massive points, I think he got injured this week too.
He did.
So, that would have definitely hurt him. But looking at Waddle, the points he threw up, I mean, that team would have been fine even with the backup quarterback.
Yeah, Hurts is ruled out for this weekend, so that would have been a big factor for him. But probably a lot of people in fantasy championships or other games coming up in the playoffs that are relying on Hurts, and he's going. But looking at it now, we got El Nino. AKA Coach Phenom, Connor Among Thieves, Fentanyl, and the Milkman in the playoffs. Couple shakeups here. I'm not sure why ESPN didn't do lowest seed versus highest seed, but it is what it is. But just kind of looking forward here into the future. I don't know if these teams are hard set on their lineups yet. Waivers have a process as it is Thursday. We're recording this, so looks like both teams have kind of settled into a lineup here. Yeah, I mean, we've said it week in, week out on this podcast. Connor Among Thieves is the team to beat, and you're going to have to be on your A game to beat them. Your windows of opportunity, Burrow playing against New England is pretty tough. And I'm just kind of looking at these matchups here. I think DeAndre Hopkins having to play with the third string quarterback and Trace McSorley this week is going to probably impact his output as well. And the ETN against the Jets is going to be a little bit tough sledding too. So there are some downs, but definitely not as tough of matchups as he had last week with some of his guys. And just looking at your team, Chubb should be able to run wild against New Orleans. I do see points on your team for sure to probably outperform your projection. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to overcome Connor Among Thieves.
Yeah, when I was like going through analyzing this, there's a couple things I'm torn on. I think Minnesota's definitely up against a tougher defense this week, obviously, than Tampa Bay.
Indy last week is who they played.
But then this week you got Tampa Bay up against Arizona, and I think that it's a more favorable pass defense there, but just Tom Brady can't be relied on. So I'm pretty solid. I'm going to go with Cousins, and then one thing I noticed is if you click on each team individually and look at how tough of a week they're going to have, even though I'm slated at 108, I have pretty favorable matchups this week. Everything's almost green with the exception of Kittle up against the Washington
Commies.
Yep, who have one of the most favorable
they got
defenses against tight ends.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Connor Among Thieves, I think his projection's pretty accurate, but he's got pretty tough matchups. Looking down, it's almost red all the way down as far as who those guys are up against. But my biggest fears are going to be, I would love for Cousins to do great, but so is Justin Jefferson. So that's going to be for every point I gain on Cousins, he's getting 2 on Jefferson. So
you got to hope he finds the end zone, not to Jefferson, which is possible, but not the easiest thing to do, as Justin Jefferson is arguably the best receiver in the league. But
unlikely. I think I'm going to lose it. I think it's going to be close. I think I'll probably lose by probably 10 points, but I think I'm going to crack 110 this week for sure. But Connor's going to be in that 130 range for sure.
Yeah, man. It for Connor Among Thieves to lose, we're both going to be shocked at this point. But I mean, your team isn't out of it. I think your team has a strong week this week, but we'll have to wait and see and see what these matchups are. It's nice though, because most of the games are on Saturday this week.
Oh yeah.
Because it's only 3 games on Christmas. So a lot of this is going to be decided on Saturday. We'll have a couple matchups to watch on Sunday, but should be pretty fun.
Less
and then
stress going into Christmas.
yeah, there you go. And then looking at our other semifinal matchup here, we have Fentanyl versus the Milkman. Milkman definitely adjusted his roster because his projection is way higher than it was a couple days ago. And looking at Fentanyl, his is about the same. His lineup's pretty much the lineup he's going to put out there pretty much every time. I do see he put Ayuk down, and Zonovan Knight against Jacksonville is a pretty decent matchup. But just looking at this, man, like, again, Milkman kind of seems like that team that's just poised for that run and playing well at the right time. Got by in a first round matchup against me, underperforming. Maybe gets the wake up call and puts up some points. Derrick Henry against Houston scares the living hell out of me if I'm playing up against them. Herbert against that NED. We just saw what Kirk Cousins did.
Oh yeah.
And Cam Akers, tough matchup, but again, just Carolina's bad for Amon-Ra. It's a good matchup for him, I should say. Just a lot of pretty favorable matchups for Milkman. And as far as Fentanyl, overperformed last week as far as his team's pretty much a pure boomer bust week in, week out. And I'm sure he'll tell you that too. But no, I mean, he can put up 150, 160, but he can also put up 70. And that scares me, and it makes it hard to pick. But so I lean Milkman here and looking for that. That's probably the destiny showdown we all kind of saw coming.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to lean Milkman as well. Not so much because of the rivalry with Fentanyl, but this past week in the waivers, he picked up Zach Moss, and I think that he's gonna get the majority of the play over there at Indy. So
yeah, with Taylor out for the year, that's definitely gonna open up that running room.
I tried grabbing him and I couldn't get him. And I ended up getting the other running back. So we'll see what the breakout looks like with who gets how much ball share and all, but I'm leaning Zach Moss on this one. The one weird thing here is what the defense is, and then I'm not too sure if like either of these teams are going to make a whole lot of money on their defenses this week. Might be a situation like I was in. So
I definitely think Eagles against the Cowboys does have potential to not really benefit Fentanyl at all, unless Dak's turning the ball over, which he can do.
Cowboys are going to put up some serious points. 49ers defense, as we saw last week, insane.
Yeah.
But then Washington with that receiver core has also been doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Jahan Dotson put up 20 fantasy points last week.
Yeah.
So
Washington isn't terrible, but I think I love Heineke. I love that dude, but I do think he turns the ball over a little bit, and I think they'll probably find a fumble here or there. That defense is just next level.
Oh yeah,
generational type defense. It looks looking like
hands down the best, I would argue, in the league this year.
For sure, without question. But that being said, we're looking like it's going to be a Connor Among Thieves and Milkman finale, which again, I don't really think anybody's going to say they're surprised about that. But just a few notes, like I said in the text group, I'm working on sending out a survey for any potential rule changes for the league next year. So if you have anything that isn't written down in the text group, text it to me and I'll put it in a survey and send it out to everybody, and so we can all vote on what everybody wants to have. And then 2, just pay out breakdowns right now. I usually, when the championship game, will ask how or if they want to change the breakups, whoever's in the championship game. But right now I have first place getting 160, second place getting 90, and third place getting their money back at 40. The reason it's so low is because half the money went to buying the championship belt, which I know was something that people were interested in having, getting the names engraved and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'll be giving that away at next year's draft. So that'll be fun. Have your name on there, etched in history of the Fantasy Football League. That is the Bro Down. That's in our 3rd year of existence. So that's really it. It's that time of year where there's not too much going on, just championship runs and anything you want to say before you head out of here and get ready for your matchup this weekend.
Just when you guys are voting, just know that I'm watching and make sure you don't vote twice. I'm talking to you out there, Risky Dipper.
Ooh, shots fired. But that being said, man, best of luck to the team still involved, and let's have a good Merry Christmas, everybody. It is that time of year. Be thankful Christmas. And spread the cheer. But until next time.